5 minutes.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to thank our witnesses tonight. And let's begin by, as a committee and as a nation, making one thing clear to everyone around the world. The Chinese Communist Party is a threat to the United States. It is the threat of our lifetime. The CCP actively undermines the U.S. and our world economy. It also attempts to use the principles of our republic against us. Beijing is intent on building a military that not only threatens the world in the Indo-Pacific, but across the globe. Beijing also has no problem in exploiting our financial systems against us. It also illegally seizes natural resources, both here in the United States and with our friends around the world. And insidiously, it attempts to shape the thoughts, the ideas, and the viewpoints of our children through their use of media. And there are many other elements that we can talk about there. Mr. Pottinger, I want to get you to elucidate, why does the Chinese Communist Party seem so intent on challenging the United States? And how does Beijing view America? And maybe most importantly, what are the CCP's vulnerabilities? What are their weaknesses? And what do we have in it as an advantage over the CCP?
Sir, the Chinese Communist Party has viewed us as the primary adversary going back quite a long time, but very clearly around the time of the end of the Cold War. So when the Soviet Union, which had been China's primary adversary up to that point, fell apart, Beijing focused on us as their primary ideological threat, military threat. Chairman Gallagher spoke about the paranoia that really runs through the heart of the CCP, fear that it's going to be subjected to color revolutions, that democracy and freedom might come to their shores in ways that would unseat them. Look, the vulnerabilities are significant. I think the most important vulnerability of all is that the party fears most of all its own people. The Chinese Communist Party fears the Chinese people. And we've seen that on display. We saw it, as Tong Yi mentioned, the recent demonstrations in China where Xi Jinping was unwilling to remove this draconian zero COVID policy of lockdowns, even when it was causing their economy to crater, even when it was not working against containing the virus. And yet, when did he finally give up the policy? It was when those brave young people, many of them young women, who led those protests on the streets of Chinese cities. Once that happened, he gave up the policy overnight and announced that COVID was merely a cold and nothing to worry about. So they're fearful of their own people.
Very good, thank you. General McMaster, we've heard our military leaders over the past 5 years define what they believe the growing threat is of China. We've heard the Davidson window, and now most recently we've heard too, maybe within the next year or two is the window that the Chinese would look to try to take Taiwan. First of all, what would be the cost of that conflict for the United States and others around the world? And we know too that a conflict there would be of a scale that I don't think anybody in this nation realizes. It would be of the scale even greater than, I think, World War II because of the massive amount of power between those two nations. Can you also tell us what would be the cost if we failed to deter the CCP?
Thank you for that question. We are in a difficult position because we have been underinvested in modernization for quite a long amount of time. What has happened is the People's Liberation Army studied us. Yeah. And instead of trying to recreate some of our exquisite capabilities, they developed countermeasures. Tiered and layered air defense, offensive cyber capabilities, counter-satellite capabilities, long-range precision fires. And so what they have done is try to figure out how to take apart what they saw as our differential advantages. We need now, and we've needed for some time, investments in countermeasures to those countermeasures, but we haven't been able to pull it off. We also have problems in capacity at the same time. So I think what Xi Jinping sees is a fleeting window of opportunity, an opportunity to move while he perceives weakness in the United States. It's worth going back and reading the joint statement between Xi Jinping and Vladimir Putin on the eve of the Beijing Olympics. The message is, hey, the United States, West, free world, you're over. It's a time for a new era of international relations, and we're in charge now. The other factors that I think add impetus to this is really the sense that the frailties in the Chinese economy that they have incurred in their race to surpass us are really beginning to show cracks in the Chinese system. What better way to divert the disappointments of the Chinese people than through jingoistic nationalist sentiment focused largely on Taiwan? There's a Taiwanese election in 2024. It's not going to be good, I think, from the view of Xi Jinping. And then our own election, which we tend to be sometimes fractious during an election, I think he may perceive weakness. If we think of deterrence as capability times will, our capabilities are not where they should be and capacity, and their perception, which I don't think is right, but the party's perception of our will, I think, makes it a dangerous period.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.
Ms. Castor is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Tong Yi, thank you very much for being here. Thank you for your bravery, for your defense of human rights, freedom, and democratic values. At the outset,